fun / not WoW expansions edition. So we're gonna skip it.
Not fun WoW expansions edition. Let's get started, shall we? Vanilla WoW. Fun. It's OG World of Warcraft coming right off the heels of
Vanilla WoW was fun.
epic storyline. Vanilla WoW had
keep
an
it safe.
amazing
Spoiler-free.
RPG feeling right from the beginning. It's a game that's complex, and yet it's still so simple that it doesn't require much of a tutorial to begin playing. Beautiful and fun class identities, hunters with
Vanilla
pets,
WoW was a
druid
game changer.
shape-shifting, warlock summoning
In many
demons.
ways.
What a
Good
fun
stuff.
game to play back in 2004. Compared to other MMOs during its time, nowhere near as punishing either, but still oh so rewarding. And the best part is, nobody knew just how successful this MMO was going to be back when it was released. And
Who would have
man,
thought?
did it take the world by storm. Burning Crusade. Fun. It's
Yeah,
vanilla
fun.
World of Warcraft, guys.
Good
but just
memories
in
of BC,
space.
man.
Blizzard took everything they learned from
High school
vanilla
Sam.
and did a major set of updates to the
Just
game.
no-lifing the
Class
game.
reworks, talent optimization. You could actually play as a balanced druid or ret paladin now and not get laughed at. The addition of blood elves to the horde and Draenei to the alliance, it brought with it the ability for horde to have paladins now, and alliance to have shamans.
It also brought with it the ability for Horde to create characters that weren't hideously ugly. Okay, right now you can make a cool-looking orc or a cool-looking troll, but back in, when was this, like 06? Maybe, when did a Burning Crusade come out? Maybe 2007? Shit. Orcs and trolls and all the other Horde races were hideous. Oh my god. Ugly as shit.
Now, some would say this was a little bit disappointing.
Blood
that
Elves
took
came
away
around and
from
added some
faction
sex appeal
identity.
to the Horde.
What do you guys think? Either way, awesome endgame in Burning Crusade, heroic dungeons, iconic raids like Karazhan Arenas. What's not to love? Zygor. Fun. Quick shout out to this channel's sponsor. It's World of Warcraft's #1 add-on for leveling guides, achievement farming, pet mount
Man, that was a
collecting,
nice ad
you
placement. I
name
didn't even
it.
catch that.
Check it out down in the description below. Thanks, guys. Wrath of the Lich King. Fun. It's the conclusion to Warcraft 3's signature character storyline, Arthas Menethil.
I mean, like, maybe I'm biased because I love the Lich King story. That's still the best cinematic. Come on, that's still the best expansion cinematic ever.
Finally getting to fight against the Lich King himself.
Humans are the
What
Nickelback
could go
of WoW.
wrong? It's a recipe for success. Northrend is absolutely gorgeous to quest in. Probably one of the most enjoyable level up experiences of any
awesome.
WoW expansion. I even made a
The
video
music.
all about this topic.
Howling
Wrath
Fjord.
also introduced WoW's first hero class, the Death Knight. Who doesn't love summoning armies of the undead?
Still the best class ever added into the game.
And raids,
Changed my opinion.
Yeah,
won't.
raids were pretty stupid easy at launch. In the expansion, it did bring a huge emphasis on tank and spank mechanics when it came to dungeons, removing the need for things like crowd control, but this did not take away from the fun that people had with Wrath. And lastly, that ending cinematic, man. Rest in peace.
The first ever. This was the first. People didn't even expect this. First ever cutscene.
Prince of Lordaeron, rest in peace. Cataclysm, not fun. Considered WoW's first bad expansion during its day, Cataclysm had so much to live up to considering that Wrath of the Lich King was so beloved.
Yeah.
It's not really a surprise that many people were disappointed, to be fair. Worgen were introduced to the game as well as goblins.
To be fair to Cat, Wrath was going to be a hard one to follow.
It's both really cool races, but Alliance, they've never been able to escape the furry jokes ever since. Unfortunately, Cataclysm felt very disconnected and random from a story perspective. 1 second, you're miles underwater in Vashir. The next, you're climbing Mount Hyjal summit. It was kind of strange. What even was Deathwing's plan anyway? Break out a deep home, just light zones on fire randomly, then get killed by a magic talking green pickle with a golden dinner plate? I don't think anyone has a clue what the story of Cataclysm
Thrall was annoying in Cataclysm, not gonna lie.
was. Mists of Pandaria, fun.
Underrated.
Cataclysm, it wasn't
Underrated. Mists of Pandaria got a bad rap from the beginning because of Kung Fu Panda comparisons and people not into the whole aesthetic. Mists of Pandaria, fun, great expansion, good story, actually turned out to be awesome. And Pandaria, I actually think is a beautiful continent.
too well received, and the
Monks
player
were
base,
great,
they
too.
were not
Yeah,
in
Sam,
the
I
best
agree.
of moods. And when Mists of Pandaria was announced, I don't think anybody was really that hyped at first. However, surprisingly, Mists went on to become one of WoW's best expansions. Beautiful zones, immersive
Leveling a fresh
lore,
character back
return to
then,
this
Cadence
Horde
was
versus
difficult.
Alliance conflict, Garrosh being a badass and doing absolutely
Also, Sam got
nothing
the
wrong.
no, I didn't.
The vibe of this expansion was awesome. And talk about some iconic raids too, from Throne of Thunder to Siege of Orgrimmar itself.
I never did Throne of Thunder. Regret it, big time. Never did Throne of Thunder. I was in college at this time, and I think it was my junior or senior year, and I just didn't have time. Makes me sad. I think I missed out on a great raid.
Overboard with the creativity and the amount of content.
One of the few that I just never did.
It's a shame though that we never saw the return of Cenarios.
A lot of people talk about
Remember
PvP in
those
Pandaria.
Small dungeon-like
How good it
stories
was.
we participated in
And
here
Miss.
and there. Those were kind of cool. Warlords of Draenor. Fun.
Best overall raid in Miss.
Not fun.
I missed it.
think that everybody here would agree
WoD.
that Warlords, it had an awesome vibe to it as an expansion. As well
As far as advertising went and everything that went into WoD and the start of WoD, my God, this expansion was hype. I'm not gonna lie. The start of WoD, all my friends came back. Everybody was ready to go. The opening quest line was so much fun. The story was great in the beginning. I mean, it was good. It was good until it wasn't.
as some gorgeous zones. Who doesn't love the idea after
Garrosh
of
had old
invading
god
another
armor.
planet,
Did he?
fighting against a tribalistic,
Those bone shoulder
bloodthirsty
pads?
enemy, and then
Also, the WoD cinematic was pretty good. Times change, and we will never be slaves. It was a pretty good cinematic. I'm not gonna lie.
building your own fortress in order to combat your foes. I mean, it was cool, but the problem with Warlords was the fact that it was one of
Yeah, the
WoW's
Kung Fu
worst
Panda stuff was
expansion launches, especially due to all
tough
the
one.
lag. Garrisons, they ended up being nowhere near as customizable and fun that people assumed
Yeah.
that they would be. And the expansion suffered
Garrisons were
from
a mistake.
massive lack of content, only receiving one major content patch during its entire life cycle.
See, that's the thing about WoD is the lack of content really hurt it. Unlike Shadowlands, which also had a lack of content, but the content was also bad. I don't think any content in WoD was necessarily bad. I mean, yeah, we got shit like the shipyard and stuff like that stuff. The Garrison stuff in general was a miss. But overall, I thought WoD content was pretty good. They just didn't exist. That was the problem. Unlike Shadowlands, where, I mean, content didn't exist, and then when it did, it was bad.
Content we did get, however, it was good, you know, in terms of dungeons and raids.
Bring that
But
monk.
it's no surprise that so many people went to play on Nostarius, this vanilla WoW private server.
No, this
during
was
this
the
expansion's
takeoff
day
of
in WoW's
Nostarius.
timeline. Legion, fun.
Great.
Warlords of Draenor
Loved
certainly
it.
hurt World of Warcraft in terms of
Legion was my law school expansion. I will forever remember it for that. I would spend time in the student lounge cafeteria in the basement. There were a bunch of weird plebs in the corner playing Nintendo Switch. That shit had just came out too, and they would bring it all the time and just play with each other. Those guys were cool. And I would sit on my gaming laptop and just play in the corner. Play Legion, run Mythic Plus because that had just come out for the first time. I enjoyed Legion a lot.
population and popularity, but Legion seemed to bring everybody
Favorite
back.
expansion?
It's
I think it is for a lot of
fan-favorite
people.
expansion, and it's no wonder as
It's
to
a great
why
expansion.
once you see the sheer amount of creativity thrown into Legion, class and spec identities being expanded upon with
Yeah.
the introduction of artifact weapons,
order
quest
halls
lines,
were
and
awesome.
class order halls,
Yeah.
fan favorite characters like Illidan and Gul'dan returning to do battle against
Yes.
one another. This world-ending invasion theme persisting throughout the
Varian.
expansion, giving to this game a feeling of urgency as we fight to defend Azeroth from the Burning Legion, and also Demon Hunters introduced.
It also, Demon Hunters were cool. It also brought a sense of nostalgia to the game because we hadn't really dealt with the Legion since Burning Crusade, and they're just they're a good foe. The storyline was good. They're a good enemy. You wanted to beat them. It made sense while we were doing everything we were doing. All in all, Legion was like kind of a nostalgia trip at the same time
Not
as it
as
was,
cool as
and it
Death
was
Knights,
new.
in my opinion.
Shit, all the artifact weapons were nostalgia tied too. I mean, you had Ashbringer, you had tons of great what's it called? Nostalgic weapons that we've known about since vanilla.
But these guys, they're so much fun to play nonetheless. Battle for Azeroth, not fun. BFA was a series of blunders on Blizzard's part, some would
Yeah.
say, leading to it being a very divisive expansion in the WoW player base. Either you thought this
Azerite
expansion
armor was a big mistake.
okay at best, or you just absolutely couldn't stand it. It was in BFA that
I had problems with BFA during BFA, but I'm not gonna lie. After BFA, I missed it a little bit. I did. Looking back at it, I don't think it was as bad as we thought it was during the expansion.
Hatred for Sylvanas and the emphasis that Blizzard was putting on her began to grow. Night Elves lost their home tree of Teldrassil. Moralist and Zandalar, they were introduced as these new areas, but they felt a little lacking in some ways. The expansion always just felt like it was missing something. Island expeditions were also a total disaster.
Yeah,
People
they kind of just dropped that
doing
one.
them. And Warfronts, despite being such an interesting idea, it just ended up
Never
being
happened,
a big
really.
letdown.
Yeah.
Some cool new allied races introduced to the
Those
game,
are
though,
fine.
in the form of Kultirans, Zandalari trolls, and Mechanomes. So there was that. Classic World of Warcraft. Fun. You thought I wasn't going to include the re-releases of Classic WoW in this video? Despite many
Not a classic player, but I can say it's fine.
Whether or not vanilla WoW would do well if it was re-released in the modern day, Classic was a huge success for Blizzard, bringing back many people to the game and making so many
Tidewell, I kind of agree with that. BFA wasn't bad, wasn't good.
WoW all over again. The only downside really was
Classic
the fact
brought
that
a lot of
because
hype back to the
sheer
game.
amount of time that had passed since 2004, Classic WoW had been min-maxed to hell, meaning that people didn't really get to experience the wonder of discovery that we got to enjoy back all those years ago. Unless, of course,
there's something people got to realize about Classic and about a lot of things in life. You can never have your first time twice. That's right. That's right. You know, as badly as you wanted to re-experience things for the first time, it's just not your first time. It goes against the laws of nature. You can't do it. So that's why, you know, these things just weren't the same.
Of course, you just never watched any YouTube videos or looked up any guides, in which case, you probably really enjoyed the re-release. Classic TBC, not fun. Now, it isn't that Classic TBC was not enjoyable. I even said earlier in the video that Burning Crusade was great. But
finished that content in like a
Vanilla's
second.
re-release as Classic, TBC just didn't seem to generate as much buzz. Many people went back to playing modern World of Warcraft, and then they proceeded to quit, and you'll see why in a second. Or they went to play other MMOs like Final Fantasy during this time. Classic TBC just didn't click as much as Vanilla Classic did. At least I don't think it did. But regardless though, the Classic TBC community, it stayed strong. Many got to enjoy the delights of Burning Crusade all over again, just like we did all those years ago. And even after all this time, I gotta say, fighting Illidan atop Black Temple, it was still awesome.
Still fun in time walking.
Yeah. Fun, not fun. Even in the beta, people were concerned.
Shadowlands. It's a bad time, man. I think we're still feeling the pains of the damage that Shadowlands did.
About this expansion, including myself.
It started off bad from the start. I mean, even if the expansion was amazing, the fact that they went back and kind of tore legitimately and literally and figuratively tore apart some of the best lore the game has ever had. Jesus.
Little did we know, however, that Shadowlands would go down as WoW's absolute worst expansion.
Oh,
there was so much emphasis put on.
It's worse than WoD. I don't care what anyone says. It's worse than WoD. Shadowlands was worse than Warlords of Draenor.
On Sylvanas, the lore made absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
The main villain, nobody liked him. Torghast got old super fast.
The jailer.
You will be really hard pressed to find somebody that really enjoyed
God,
Shadowlands.
Even these clips, man. I swear to God, watching these clips gives me PTSD.
Sure, there's a few people out there that are going to be in the comment section of this video, but for most people, Shadowlands is the definitive worst
loving you are
expansion
lucky
in World of Warcraft history. Classic Wrath of the Lich King. Fun. As mentioned before, Wrath of the Lich King, it was considered one of WoW's best expansion, if not the best expansion. So this was the classic experience that many people wanted to see brought back to life. Now, currently, at the time of this video's release, Wrath of the Lich King is still going strong, but I will say that it is a little bit too early to say if this re-release of WoW will go down as positive or negative in the player base's mindset. However, from what we've gotten so far and the fact that the community is still strong, still healthy,
I think people still like Wrath. People are still enjoying it.
Wrath of the Lich King is fun and it's being enjoyed just like it was all those years ago. Dragonflight, fun.
Good.
Shadowlands may have been a complete disaster for Blizzard, but Dragonflight, at least
the worst thing about Dragonflight is the fact that it had to follow up Shadowlands. That's the worst thing that's happened to it, honestly. Otherwise, Dragonflight's been great, and I feel like it kind of got screwed by the fact that Shadowlands was its predecessor.
Far has been very enjoyable for most, although nowhere near as epic as Wrath of the Lich King or as immersive as Legion. Dragonflight, it's filled with a ton of enjoyable
Tidewell, they said the
activities
game
for
was dead
players
back
to
then.
do
Imagine what
each
they
day
think
upon
now.
logging in. It's my hope and many people's hope that Blizzard can continue to deliver strong results with.
If WoW is saved, Pronk, I agree. Dragonflight will go down as the pivot point, the turnaround.
This expansion, because it would be so cool to see retail make a massive comeback. It seems that Classic just seems to be leading the way these days when it comes to WoW, but we don't know. We don't really have the internal numbers. The one thing I'll say about Dragonflight though, evokers, man. Blizzard, you should have given us those big buff dragonkin looking guys to play instead, rather than these skinny Argonian looking fellas. But
that's a mistake.
Out of World of Warcraft's 13 expansions, 8 were fun and 5 were not fun. Do you agree with the list? Let us know in the comment section down below.
Nice. Yeah, Tidewell says every expansion in the WoW community. There are people who are going to complain no matter what, every single expansion. That is true. There are those people. But what I would say, I'm not one of those guys. I think I'm pretty easy to please, honestly. There's a lot of movies that I've went and watched that people, a lot of people complain about and say, wow, that's a shit, that was a shit movie and everything. And I'll walk out of the theater and be like, damn, that's a pretty good movie. I'm a pretty easy guy to impress. Pretty positive in general. And I will tell you, Shadowlands was a really bad expansion. It's hard to be positive about that one. Shadowlands is a really bad expansion. But Dragonflight is a great one. I've been very impressed with Dragonflight. I've had a great time in Dragonflight. And 10.1 is going to, say a lot, but it looks like it's going to be a great patch. So I'm excited.